President Donald J. Trump's victory speech, this time on Bill Whittle Now. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle. And Bill, as many Republicans believe, some perhaps 70 million across the country, the outcome of the election is not yet determined. President Trump continues to fight that in court. And if that plays out the way they are all expecting it to, and the way the president is certainly expecting it to, and the call made on Saturday the 7th, I believe it was, by the major media organizations turns out to have been inaccurate, and President Trump retains the White House for a second term, I'd like you to think in terms of if you were President Trump's speechwriter, and you now have to address not just the 70 million people who voted for you, but some 75 million Americans who voted for Joe Biden. How would you begin such a victory speech?
Well, I wouldn't put this in the speech, but first of all, if we don't know how many people voted for Joe Biden, but put that aside. I think what I would do is I would say something along the lines of my fellow Americans. We understand there's a great deal of rancor and divide in this country, but we live under the rule of law. And one of the things that we've seen that is most destructive to both sides is not only the destruction of the rule of law, but the destruction of the entire idea of the rule of law. And that doesn't end well for anybody. The laws pertaining to the election of the President of the United States are extraordinarily precise and extraordinarily clear. And if you're feeling heartbroken right now and feeling like something was stolen from you, then something was stolen from you. What was stolen from you was your sense of victory, and that sense of victory was issued by the news media. But the news media doesn't determine the president. The news media has known from the very beginning. They've known from early in the evening, well, certainly by the morning of the next day, that legal challenges were in place in all of these cities. And the reason that those challenges were in place is because we had convincing evidence that something funny was going on. But the news media didn't care about that. They told you that Joe Biden had won the election. They told you that Joe Biden was president-elect. Nobody, myself, Barack Obama, pick a president, Abraham Lincoln, nobody was president-elect until the electors had met in Washington on the Wednesday following the second Monday of every of December, as outlined in the Constitution.
Now, Bill, can I just address that? Because you have brought up that point in multiple shows repeatedly and with some vigor. I did a little search of the internet, and I said, show me the first end of the first week or beginning of the second week of November 2016 in the news. And did the phrase President-elect Donald Trump get used by major left-wing news media outlets? And indeed it did. NPR,
yes.
The Washington Post, the UK Guardian, and I could go on.
Would you like to know the difference?
They all referred to him that way.
Would you like to know the difference?
Sure, it's your show.
Okay. The difference is that Hillary Clinton had conceded. Therefore, Donald Trump could preemptively use the term president-elect, although not legally correct. He could preemptively be called president-elect because there was literally nothing standing in his way of becoming president-elect.
Well, Al Gore conceded, but then he unconceded.
That's correct. Yes. A lot of us found that to be a little bit alarming. That's kind of like being in a mixed martial arts act and having somebody have you down in a headlock and have you about to pass out and have you tap out on the mat. And then as you get up and the ref raises your hand in victory, the other guy comes around and smashes you in the nose. A concession is a concession is a concession. And when Al Gore unconceded the election, that's what started this whole mess. If he thought that there was a fight still going on, he should never have conceded, but he did. And George Bush was on his way to make an announcement that the election was over. And then he after receiving the concession call from Al Gore, and then Al Gore called him back and said, "You know what, George, I've unconceded." In other words, even though I've appealed to the referee and I've said the fight is over and I give up, I'm back in the fight again.
But Bill, you have made the point that it's the Electoral College that essentially bestows the title of president-elect upon the president-elect. And now you're saying that Hillary Clinton also has the power to bestow that.
No, I'm saying that when sometimes the ability of the left to try to muddy waters that are perfectly clear is really astonishing, but that's how the left survives, I guess. Let me slow down for you. In an uncontested election, the term president-elect can occasionally, although improperly, be used early because there is no possible way that decision can be turned around. But I would remind you, if you want to go back to 2000 and Hillary Clinton, that George Bush was not called president-elect during the 37 days that Al Gore was fighting this in the courts. So I'm not the one being inconsistent. The media is. The media didn't call George Bush president-elect because he won the mechanical count and the mechanical recount, which was all the Constitution required him to do. No, on the contrary, not only did they not recognize him as president-elect when he was inaugurated, they didn't even recognize him as president. They said the Supreme Court selected the president. That's not what happened. The Supreme Court told the Florida court, you do not get to recount until you find a number you like. You will have your electors in Washington at the designated day, which is the Wednesday following the second Monday in December. And that's that. And that's when Gore gave up because when the Supreme Court of the United States told them, no, you don't get to count forever, that was the end of it. So I hope that cleared up any confusion you might have.
Yes, and I blame myself for taking this episode off track. So let me just get back to the purpose and see if we can finish up with this idea. In many ways, in 2016, one could say that Donald Trump won the election because Democrats and their media handlers for years had essentially ignored, dismissed, diminished, talked down to the American people in general, conservatives, Republicans, and any non-Democrats specifically. How does President Trump, in his victory speech going into his second 4 years, avoid making the same mistake of being dismissive toward a large chunk of the American electorate and, frankly, setting himself up for potential disaster in 2022 for the midterm elections?
At this point, I don't much care about the midterm elections. What I care about right now is that the Justice Department remain under the control of somebody who's interested in justice. And we'll sort out 2022 and 2022 happens. Now, with that said, if it were me, my inclination, if I was writing Donald Trump's speech, would be to tell the truth. And the truth is that we've been hearing about President-elect Biden precisely for this reason. This isn't an accident. This is why he's being called president-elect every day. This is why they're already talking about what he's going to do. This is why they're talking about his transition team, which Donald Trump's legal team has blocked. No, you don't get a transition team yet because the issue has not been decided yet. So if this had been the other way around, we would have 24/7 news coverage about the seriousness of the charges. We'd have 24/7 news coverage about Joe Biden or Donald Trump, who would apparently, if you want to flip the situation around, talking about how he's setting up for his second term when it hasn't been decided yet.
So would you really talk about this stuff in a victory speech, or did I just kind of goad you into that?
In a victory speech, I would think it's not only would I be willing to, I think it is critically important to explain to people that it's not a question of the failure of the press, that this entire business of declaring a winner when the issue is still in court was manipulation designed to produce the exact reaction that you are feeling right now. That is what it was designed to do. They are fully aware of the consequences of what they did, but they tried to psychologically lock the country into the end of a decision before the verdict had been reached. So in other words, what they're trying to do is they're trying to tell you whether OJ is either guilty or innocent 3 weeks before the jury comes in. And this is what they do. And the reason they do it is so that you would feel heartbroken and so that you would feel robbed and so that you would feel stolen from. This is why they're doing it. This is why they did it in the first place. They know full well that this election has been contested from the beginning. They know full well that this election cannot be called until those legal issues are disputed. So why did they do it? They did it to get you people who voted for Joe Biden in good faith to be convinced of a victory that was not there. And now you feel like it's been robbed and stolen from you, which is precisely the feeling that they not only wanted, but they manufactured. Now, I can't do anything else about that, but what I can tell you is that the laws of this nation are clear. And one of the reasons that 70 million people support me for president is not because they think I'm a swell guy. It's because they want the rule of law restored. You don't get to make up the rules as you go along. And if it turned out that the recount had gone the other way and Joe Biden had been legitimately elected president of the United States, then our supporters would have would have agreed with that. They wouldn't have liked it, but they would have gone along with it, as we have at every other election in our history. So I'm very sorry about the feelings you're feeling. But you will find that there has been not only no violation of the law on the part of my campaign, but rather that the entire thing has been manufactured by the media and also by the Biden campaign, which, if it had any integrity, would have had the decency to do what George Bush did in 2000 and basically say, well, I believe I won this election, but we're going to continue the recount and not make the assumption that I've won until the decision has been reached in the courts. And that's about all I would do.
The members at BillWhittle.com have made this program possible. I'm sure many of them are looking forward to laying Bill Whittle's remarks down next to that speech that Donald Trump will give in the near future and seeing how those two comport and how close Bill was to predicting accurately what the president might say. If you are not yet a member at BillWhittle.com, we invite you to do so. Our ranks are growing rapidly. People realize perhaps now more than ever how important it is to be in the fight, to be active in discussing the issues that are important to the future of this magnificent republic, and to be engaged with a group of people that can come together as iron sharpens iron, as the scriptures say, and for mutual encouragement and, frankly, a lot of laughter.
Disagreement.
Good times
and
some healthy disagreement. That's right.
Absolutely.
So when you become a member, you get access to not only reading the member blog, but writing the member blog, as well as being part of the vigorous comments section under each new post. We invite you to do so right now. Just go to BillWhittle.com, click that big green Become a Member button. If you're not up for a recurring payment situation, you can make a one-time contribution, not only with PayPal if you have a PayPal account, but with any credit card, even if you don't have a PayPal account. There's a thing on the front page that'll allow you to do that. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.